Department Financial Studies, Veer Bahadur Singh, Purvanchal University, Jaunpur. His academic, administrative, and research responsibilities includes Dean Academic Affairs, Director Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Kendra, Professor in charge in Library, former Registrar, Director Public Relation Officer, Dean of Colleges, Dean Research, and many more. He has 27 years of rich teaching experience in the field of management and commerce education at the university level. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome to our keynote speaker, Wilfred Isioma Uppere. He is presently professor in the Department of Industrial Psychology and People Management at the University of Johannesburg. He contributes a strong theoretical approach to his research, with most of his output centered on critiquing the impact of capitalism in the post-Cold War era, notably in the context of emerging economies. Professor Wilfred obtained his BCom MCom from Punjabi University of Patiala. He further obtained another MCom in Business Administration from Jivaji University in Gwalior and subsequently obtained his doctorate in Human Resource Management from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology in Cape Town. Professor Wilfred has more than 19 years of cognate industrial academic and research experience. He has worked with the Central Institute of Management in Ambala, the Central Bank of Nigeria in Abuja, and at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology in Cape Town, where he lectured and served as Head of Department, Entrepreneurship and Business Management. He demonstrates a keen sense of responsibility towards his students, and his contribution to the development of young academic through mentorship is well acknowledged. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome our Presidential Address, Professor Manoj Sivaj. Professor Sivaj is President, Haryana Economic Association and Chairperson, Department of Economics, Chaudhry Devilal University, Sirsa. He has been academically brilliant and university topper in his post-graduation in economics from MD University, Rohtak. Professor Sivaj has leadership in many professional bodies like Free Economic Society of Russia, World Association of Political Economy, Indian Economic Association. He is also authorized signatory of Indian Political Economy Association and President of Haryana Economic Association. Professor Sivaj's academic, administrative, and research responsibilities includes former Registrar CDLU Sirsa, former Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, former Director IQAC, and many more. Professor Sivaj has 25 years of rich experience in teaching and research in the field of economics. I welcome you, sir. Now I welcome our today's chief guest, Professor Loveleen Mohan. Professor Loveleen is the Registrar of Chaudhry Ranbir Singh University, Jind. Madam Loveleen is first class, first gold medalist undergraduate from Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak, and first in department postgraduate from Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra. Her academic, administrative, and research responsibilities includes Head Department of Economics and Foreign Languages, Director Dr. Mangal Senchir, Advisory Member of Maharishi Dayanand University Arts Journal, Member of Central Purchase Committee, Advisory Member of Global Initiatives for Academic Network, Member Quality Advisory Council, and many more. Professor Loveleen has 35 years of research, teaching, and research experience and teaching experience in the field of English literature. I welcome you, ma'am. I also welcome all the participants, teaching faculty and academicians and paper presenters in this 2 days international conference. I welcome you all on the behalf of Department of Economics, Chaudhry Ranbir Singh University, Jind, and Haryana Economic Association. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Fogart, for warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Now I request to Professor Manoj Shivaj, President, Haryana Economic Association, Professor, Department of Economics, Chaudhry Devilal University, Sirsa, Haryana, India, for his address. Professor Manoj Shivaj. Technical staff is requested to allow Dr. Shivaj.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Dr. Sunil and Dr. Vijay. Professor Somnath Sachdevaji, Vice Chancellor Chaudhry Ranveer Singh University and Chief Patron of the conference. Professor Loveleen Mohanji, Registrar CRSU Jind, Patron of the conference and Chief Guest of the inaugural session. Professor Wilfred, University of Johannesburg, keynote speaker in the inaugural session. Professor S.K. Sinha, Dean Academic Affairs, CRSU Jind. And guest of honor at the inaugural session. Dynamic, energetic, and resourceful team of the Department of Economics, CRSU Jind, consisting of Dr. Sunil Fogart, convener of the conference, Dr. Vijay Kumar and Dr. Rakesh Kumar, both organizing secretaries of the conference, and all the worthy participants. A very good morning to all. Dear friends, it is an honor to stand before you and present the presidential address at this international conference. The conference is in the backdrop of a long stretch of COVID-19 pandemic. Despite being basically of biological nature, it has deeply influenced economic growth, redistribution of wealth, restructuring of economies, and world supply chains over past 2 years. The impact of coronavirus pandemic has been largely disruptive in terms of economic activities. One of the lateral impacts has been high levels of inflation. We are witnessing a double-digit WPI inflation in India. US is witnessing the level of inflation which it has not seen in last 40 years. Europe is no exception. Reserve Bank of India is once again in the middle of intense debate whether to increase the interest rates while keeping a balance between the twin objectives of reining in inflation and maintaining growth in the economy. Further, the informal sector, which is the hub of employment, is under stress and demands deeper economic analysis. We have received a lot of papers on this theme, and I sincerely hope the effective outcome on this aspect. The agrarian sector and the rural economy have been another area witnessing lively debates. We have seen economists taking diametrically opposite views on agricultural issues such as farmer indebtedness, contractual farming, agricultural product pricing and marketing, food and fertilizer subsidies, direct benefit transfers to the farmers. We may say that a lot of churning is going on at theoretical and public policy level as far as agricultural issues are concerned. It is expected that this conference will come out with some constructive contributions on this aspect too. Friends, unprecedented monetary expansion has been the response during the financial crisis of 2008 and the recent COVID-19 crisis. We have seen so much money being printed during last 14 or 15 years, which the world had not printed during last hundreds of years. This has left lesser space for monetary policy interventions. On the other hand, we are witnessing that there is a general tendency of decreased tax rate regimes, leading to smaller size of government budget. This in turn leaves lesser space for fiscal policy interventions in resolving these economic crises. In other words, we may say that we are left with lesser space both for fiscal and monetary policies to resolve our economic problems at national level. This, coupled with increased disparities within societies and the nations, rising poverty and unemployment levels, has exposed the inadequacy of classroom mainstream economics. The mainstream economics has become increasingly incapable in reflecting upon the real world problems, which has resulted in rising voice within the academia to develop alternative paradigms to understand real world issues. We have roped in some experts to deliberate on these serious theoretical and political policy issues. I hope that the youngsters will gain a lot out of these deliberations. Dear participants, this conference will ponder over all the issues within a rainbow contribution of young scholars on one end and experienced minds on the other end. However, the conference will fail in its purpose if it fails to link all these theoretical and empirical issues with the economy of Haryana. We have received a lot of papers related to the Haryana economy. Last but not the least, we as teachers have the responsibility of continuously reinventing ourselves in improving the course content and methods of teaching of economics to rise to the needs of changing economic and social requirements. Keeping all these things in mind, the young and dynamic team of Department of Economics, CRSU Jind, and Haryana Economic Association have consciously developed the themes of the conference. My colleagues in the CRSU Jind have used their connections to rope in very senior and experienced economists from Canada, USA, UK, South Africa, and various parts of the country to share their views in the conference. I've been told by the organizers that the participants are from many states and even other countries. Their efforts have lifted the level of the conference. This would not have been possible without the support and guidance of Vice Chancellor, Registrar, and Dean Academic Affairs of the host university. I would like to extend my warm regards and thanks to their cooperation and guidance in making this conference an event of this level. I hope that the participants will get enough academic food from this conference, and this will remain in their minds as a sweet memory in the times to come. My best wishes for a successful conference. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your best wishes. And thank you for a brief introduction of conference and Haryana Economic Association, and a very interesting discussion about the economic activities at the global level. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now, I invite Professor S.K. Sinha, the backbone of the university, Dean Student Welfare, Dean Research, Dean Academic Affairs, for his address. Over to Professor Sinha.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. It is an honor moment of Chaudhry Ranveer Singh University that Department of Economics with collaboration with the Haryana Economic Association conduct 2-day international conference on Indian economic during pandemic, new challenges and opportunity. This is very relevant topic, relevant area. Myself, Professor S.K. Sinha, want to start some of my views related to this economic challenges and opportunity. We all know the COVID-19 outbreak, which started in China in December 2019, has spread to 203 countries till date. That means 26th April 2022. Over 50 million people, including around 62 million deaths, has been affected by COVID-19 worldwide, as reported by WHO. From being a large-scale regional outbreak confined to China and neighboring countries till February 2020, it has significantly affected many countries in Europe, North America, and Asia, and then tuned into the global pandemic. The World Health Organization declared the virus outbreak as a pandemic for 4 months later in the second week of the March 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has spread throughout the world, including the India. Cases increased in India as well as promoting the government to impose 21 days national lockdown beginning March 25, 2020 in order to combat an infection. As a result, industrial operation in the country, except essential service, have come to a halt with a fear of disease outbreak likely to have a long-term impact of the many industry. The closure of a large number of businesses were causing unrest and disorder on the unprecedented level. This had slowed economic activity and was causing enormous human suffering. With COVID-19 entering the picture, the Indian economy was experiencing a significant slowdown, which became apparent in the recent quarter. Even before the crisis hit, the economic expanded at a 6-year low of 4.7% in the third quarter of that fiscal year. With all these issues, businesses were finding it difficult to survive in this setting. The crisis forced them to take tough decisions like cutting salary, giving pink slip to employee, and opting for other cost-saving measures. The government was taking necessary steps so that there is no loss to the economy, but the damage which has been done in the last few months of that year will surely last for a long time. With all these issues, businesses find too hard to survive in the setting. They are forced to take difficult decisions such as slashing salary, giving worker pink slip, and opting for other cost-saving steps. The government is taking necessary steps that will not damage the economy further, but the damage that has been done in a previous few months will definitely last for a longer period of time. According to the report sent to WHO, there has been some amount cases of COVID-19 and death in India till 26th, 2020. The shock is playing out the almost similar manner in all countries of the world in terms of demand and supply disruption and consequent economic slowdown. In case of India, however, the problem might be more actual and longer lasting, owing to the state economy was in the pre-COVID-19 period. By the time of the first COVID-19 case was reported in India, the economy has deteriorated significantly after year 2 favorable performance. GDP growth rate has been on downward trajectory since 15-16. According to the official statistics, GDP growth slowed down to 4.2% in 2019 and 20, the lowest level since 2002-3. Industry, which account for 30% of GDP, surged by 0.58% in quarterly 19-20. Unemployment reached a 45-year high, a major driver of the growth in an economy in investment by the private corporate sector. In previous COVID-19 period, nominal value of the private sector investment have been declining. The total outstanding investment projects between 15-16 and 19-20 declined by 2.4%, where new project announced fell by 4%. As per data from CMIE, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, consumption coronavirus pandemic of India has been largely disruptive in terms of economic activity as well as loss of human lives. Almost all the sector have been adversely affected as domestic demand and exports sharply plummeted, with some notable expectation where high growth was observed. An attempt is made to analyze the impact of possible option for some key sector. Like informal sector, India has vast informal sector, the largest in the world, employing close to 90% of its working population and contributing more than 45% to its overall GDP. This sector was hit by 2 consecutive shocks in the shortest span of time from 2016 to 2019. The first shock was demonetization in November 2016, when 86% of the money in the economy became unusable overnight owing to a government decree, followed by haphazard introduction of. In terms of agriculture and rural activity, the agriculture sector is critical as a large number of workers and entire country population are dependent on this sector. The performance of the agriculture is also key to state the rural demand. In pre-COVID-19 period, agricultural GDP experienced an average growth rate of 3.3% per year in the 6-year period of 2014-15 to 2019-20, with the intermediate fluctuations. The provisional estimates of National Statistical Office show that GDP growth in agriculture has increased from 2.4% in fiscal year 19 to 4% in fiscal year 20. So it was also relatively better at 3.5% in quarter third in fiscal year 20. However, the terms of trade have moved against the agriculture during 16-17 to 18-19 due to bumper crops and horticulture production, which caused to decline in food price. Terms of the trade of the agriculture seems to have improved in 1920 as a nominal agriculture GDP growth was 11.4% as compared to real growth of 4%. Growth in rural wages was subdued in the pre-COVID-19 period, particularly for agriculture labor in the both nominal and real terms, partly due to the slowdown in the construction sector. The adverse impact of the COVID-19 on agriculture has been much less compared to manufacturing and services. However, the initial input distribution, harvesting, procurement, transport hurdles, marketing and processing, closure of restaurant, transport, etc. Reduce the demand for fresh produce, poultry, fisheries product, affecting the producer and supplier. In terms of aviation, aviation is amongst the worst affected sector amidst the COVID-19 crisis that has taken the scale of pandemic. According to the International Air Transport Association, airline globally can lose in passenger revenue up to $113 billion due to this crisis. Airfare have also come under pressure due to nearly 30% drops in the booking to virus affected destination. As a result, airfare to such a destination have fallen by 20 to 30%. Domestic traffic growth in also gradually being affected, with the domestic traveler postponing or cancelling their travels plan. Some companies have reported more than 30% drop in domestic travels this summer compared with the last year. Airfare in the popular domestic routes have been reduced by 20 to 25%, and airfare was accepted to remain subject for the summer season as well. According to the data available with the Ministry of Civil Aviation, nearly 585 international flights have been cancelled to and fro of India between February 1 to March 6 because of the outbreak of the coronavirus. Cash reserve of the airline company are running low, and many are almost at the brink of bankruptcy. In terms of tourism and hospitality and medical value travels, with the large scale of cancellation of travel plan by both foreign and domestic tourists, there has been drop in the both inbound
Professor Sinha.
Sorry, some internet problem.
Ji.
So, in tourism, hospitality, and medical value travels, like I just my view is to some period last, and of all segment of the hospitality sector, the meetings, incentives, conference, exhibitions, popularly known as MIC segment, has been hit of the most, and some of the major international business events have also been cancelled, including tech events, some Mobile World Congress, Google IOE and Facebook F8 events, which had led to the huge economic losses. The tourism industry expects to situation of further deteriorate in March and in the forthcoming summer session, that is April, June. Usually, the number of Indian travelers to the both domestic and international destination peaked during the month of March and April. However, this time around nearly 90% booking of hotel and flights for a peak time have been cancelled. Today's booking of the destinations such as Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia have also been cancelled by travelers in huge numbers. According to the Indian Association of Tour Operation of the Hotel, Aviation and Travel sector, together might incur loss about 8,500 crore due to the travel restriction imposed on foreign tourists by the India for a month. In terms of e-commerce, with by asking corporates to allow work from home to their employee. Moreover, several state governments have imposed city lockdown as a preventive measure. Given the likelihood of such a lockdown being extended to the several regions across the country, so there could be animated consequence on the e-commerce industry, as some there surge a demand of home delivery of a goods under the present circumstances. While there is a need to ensure safety of all citizens, it is suggested that invited consequence of any lockdown on the e-commerce industry is looked into. In terms of education, as COVID-19 disease spread wide across the country, the state government have ordered to closure of school and educational institution till 31st, 2020, which may even be extended in the case of disease is not contained. In some place, examination have also been postponed. The closure of educational institution has hampered the study of children, as such as school may be increasingly turned to online mode of teaching during the transitory phase. Entertainment event and sports in some parts of the country like Kerala, Jammu and Kashmir, Delhi, Karnataka, Mumbai, cinema, theater, shopping malls and gyms have been closed till March 31st, 2020 to stop the spread of the virus, while exact loss of difficult to calculate presently. But some esteems suggest that threats in the Delhi alone may have incurred loss of 2 to 10 lakh, 10 within the period of 10 days. The announcement has been adversely impacted the television and film industry. While shooting have been suspended and promotional events have been put on the hold, it has also affected release to new movies. In terms of real estate and construction, the year 2019 was difficult one to real estate sector, which continue to struggle with the funding crisis in the immediate issue of plunging the NBFC and banking sector. The situation has been exacerbated by the economic slowdown, resulting in poor housing demand. There have
Professor Sinha, you are not audible, sir. Professor Sinha.
So, in my view, in transport and logistics, the outbreak of the coronavirus has been impact the transport and logistics sector as well. The transport sector revenue have been affected and likely to be further impacted with the slowdown in the economic activity due to the urban lockdown across several states, combined with the supply disruption and caused globally. One sector is the automobile sectors. China account of 27% of the India's automotive part import, and major global auto part makers such as Roberts, Bosco, etc. have factories located in Hubei province. Owing to the closure of the factory of the companies, there are reportedly been delay in production and delivery of the vehicle like Bharat Stage 4 complaint models. These models can now produced and sold until end of the March in this year. Moreover, the situation has become more precarious after the decision of the Chinese government to limit all shipment by the sea until further notice. In terms of consumer durables and electronics, India imported 45% completely built units of consumer durables from China. In addition to finished product, India also imported nearly 70% of the component for the television and other consumer durables products such as air conditioner, refrigerator, and washing machine. Due to supply disruptions, sales of these items are likely to be hampered. Also, Chinese suppliers have reportedly increased the price of some component by more than 2% and price of TV panel by the more than 15%. Hence, it is the anticipated that price of these consumer durables items will see a price increase in the range of 3 to 5%. Medical devices. India imports the variety of consumable disposal and capital equipment, including the orthopedics, implants, gloves, surgery bandage, computer, etc. So due to this current crisis in China, the medical devices manufacturing across India are finding it difficult to some important raw material and electronics component from the Chinese factory, even though some of the factories in China have restored an operation and shortage of some critical electronics part and raw material still exists. So this adversely affected by the margin and productivity of Indian company importing the medical devices and small components to manufacture finished product. About MSME are likely to be severely impacted of the lockdown, continue for longer duration to wake the coronavirus epidemic. A large number of SME could have incurred a business loss and also face severe cash flow disruption, which in all likelihood will have adversely affected on the livelihood of the several people working in this sector. Given the severity of the crisis, it is important to ensure health safety of MSME workforce, especially those involved at a shop floor. Additionally, from economic perspective, it is extremely important to ensure flow of money into the working capital of such enterprises. So, in this regarding this, now the present scenario of Indian economy is showing strong sign of the recovery from the devastation caused by the pandemics, with upswing being reported in 19 out of 22 economic indicators as compared to the pre-COVID level. High frequency indicators are being monitored to track the progress of economic recovery in India since the first COVID-19 case was reported in the country in January 2020. Indian economy is coming track, and many agencies predicted India to be the only country having the highest rate of growth but rather than highest GDP, we had the highest number of COVID-19 cases. By the month of March 21, the second wave of COVID-19 hit the nation so badly that India recorded around the 4 lakh cases per day, which was the highest per day case any country witnessed till now. The longer the second wave will last, the more served would be the adverse impact of the Indian economy, following the recent trend under which many states had to go the decision of partial lockdown. RBI paced the Indian growth at 10.5%, with IMF revised is at 12.5%, though these growth rates are still higher than China, whose predicted growth rate has been pegged 8.4% of roadmap. To achieve this high growth rate will be challenging for India. So, in last, my conclusion is the lockdown was necessary to control the spread of the virus, but it is led to a supply shock, a demand shock, and market shock. Now, the recovery depends on the fiscal measure that will be taken by the government. Some of the following policy steps that Indian government can take are: many economists have restricted the point, give money into the hand of the poor. It will be increase the purchasing power of the people and therefore demand. The government through direct benefit transfer mechanism can increase and cash spending to women, farmer and other vulnerable groups. The whole nation saw that healthcare sector crumbled during the second wave in COVID-19. Therefore, the need of our increasing the public-private investment in healthcare sector through CSR spending. The government of production-linked initiative scheme was welcome step in which 10 sector was identified initially. Now, industry activity has to be expanded in the rural area. It can be done by reducing the logistic cost and improving the port in hinterland connectivity, enabling the shift towards renewables source of energy, and incentivization the production to recycled water for the industry purpose. Under the National Bond-Based Mission, the government should strive to increase the investment in digital infrastructure to enhance the rural connectivity. The vision of the improving digital literacy can be achieved by the running more training center under the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Sakshatkar Abhiyan. In the absence targeted public investment, India risks moved from V-shaped economy recovery towards K-shaped one. So characterized by the increasing poverty and inequality among the some groups, even other recover. As the second wave revenge the country, the focus must remain the bringing the growing rural-urban economic divided. Every crisis bring about the unique opportunity to rethink on the path undertaken for the development of human being, community and society. So therefore, the COVID-19 pandemic has a clear message for Indian economy to adopt sustainable developmental model, which are based on self-reliance, inclusive frameworks and are environment friendly. So these are the some view of the impact of COVID in Indian economy. On this virtual platform, I welcome all the delegates. Firstly, I welcome and inspiration of the university, Professor Somnam Sachdeva, Vice Chancellor of this university, Worthy Registrar, Professor Loveleen Mohan, Professor Manoj Sivach, President, Haryana Economic Association, today keynote speaker, Wilfred Isomia Ukpiri, Professor, Department of Industrial Psychology, Johannesburg, South Africa, and all panelists. I, on behalf of the Chaudhary Ranveer Singh, University and Department of Economics. I welcome all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor S.K. Sinha, for sharing your views. Now I request to Professor Wilfred Ukpere, Professor, University of Johannesburg, South Africa, for his keynote address. All to Professor Wilfred Ukpere.
Thank you very much. And of course, thank you also, Professor Sinha, for the wonderful presentation. In fact, it was quite informative and instructive to every one of us who are participating in this very conference. And of course, thank you, Dr. Vijay Kumar, for introducing me. I would like to share my slide, if it is possible. All right. Screen. Vijay, can you guide me?
Yeah, please click on the arrow.
Yeah, I have done that.
After that, present your screen or window.
Window, okay. I'm just coming.
Click on the icon which are on the bottom.
That is the one of share.
Yeah.
But I have not opened my window yet. I have not opened the material yet. Do I need to open it first on my laptop?
Yeah.
Because naturally I used to use Zoom, but let me say something. Okay.
First of all, open your file on your laptop. After that,
Okay.
click on the present now.
Okay. I have now done that. Can you see it?
No.
Can you see it now? Is
No,
it sharing?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine now.
Presenting. Yeah, fine.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, colleagues, and it's wonderful to be with you all this morning. In fact, the invitation to your conference was quite a very short notice when Professor Bawinder Singh invited me to act as a keynote speaker at your conference. However, we always take up the challenge because it's always good to talk and add value to issues affecting humanity in this regard from the economic point of view. As the introduction goes, I'm also a product of India, having studied in two India university, Punjab University, where I did my BCom and MCom. In fact, I was a student of Matani Mahmoodi College in Patiala during my BCom. And of course, I did my master's at Punjab University main campus. And of course, I did another master's in business administration from Jiwaji University in Gwalior. So anytime I'm speaking to people in India, in January, I was actually delivering another keynote address at one of the engineering colleges in Pune. I feel like coming back home whenever I'm speaking to delegates in India. And when I hear people say India from Kurukshetra University, from Haryana, these are places I have actually journeyed on my way from Patiala to New Delhi, and of course from Chandigarh, sometime also to New Delhi. So it's like coming back home, actually. So the topic I will be sharing today with regards to some of the topic I noticed in your conference team is actually sustaining economic development and growth in an ever-changing world through decent job. in an ever-changing world to do the same job. Because we have been talking about previous economic dynamics and variables, and the fact that most of the economic thoughts that we know have not been able to tackle some of the challenges confronting us from economic point of view. But one thing that we must also keep in mind is that probably we have not done enough in the area of decent work, which is why I felt, okay, to an extent, I think I will address that particular issue this morning in my keynote address. Right. So currently, as a result of most of these challenges that have been actually affecting us within the globe or across the globe, we're talking about sustainable development, which has now become a buzzword in recent times. Sustainable development, sustainability, and of course, so many things. And most of these things comes because there seems to be insustainability in most of our economic practices, and of course, in most of the issues that are affecting humanity. So that is why now there's now a renewed call for sustainable development or sustainability in terms of what we are doing. And of course, sustainability becomes a very catchy word within the current challenges that have, of course, affected humanity vis-a-vis globalization, fourth industrial revolution, and of course, the COVID-19 that we are still tackling and battling with up to today. Now, but before moving or discussing more about sustainable development, it should be very, very imperative to first of all talk about development, which include both economic and of course social development. And of course, different experts seem to have different views regarding development in terms of how they define it or in terms of how they see it. For instance, Mayer cited in Agrawal defined development as the process whereby real per capita income of country increase over a long period of time, subject to the stipulation that the number of people below an absolute poverty line does not increase, and the distribution of income does not become more unequal. That is, of course, the perspective of Mayer. And of course, from the above definition, it seems to me that this is quite a total departure from what is happening in many countries today, particularly the developing ones, as the rise in per capita income seem to accompany rising inequality and poverty in society. When we compare the definition of Mayer and of course what is actually the realities on ground in most of our economies or in most of the nations across the globe. And of course, in this regard, from the issues of rising inequality and poverty, Balema, with regards to Burkina Faso, observed. He said the gap between the rich and the poor is widening ever more. Such a situation is all the more insupportable in the midst of relative high economic growth, which have been mainly for the rich, you see, which is actually reflecting high number of inequality. And I remember when Professor Sinha was also giving some of the statistics of inequality in India. It seems to me that, of course, inequality is still widening in India. I remember myself as a student of Indian economy during my days at Punjabi University. I know that India has this tendency to make earnest effort to address issues of disparity, individual and of course regional and of course national disparity. But of course, why is it that all of a sudden we are now seeing distended inequality? It seems to me from that perspective that of course India has also been carried away by the capitalist doctrine of globalization, which I will touch as I progress in terms of this presentation. All right. Now, with regards to definition of development, Sayembo perceived development as a quantitative and qualitative improvement in the quality of life of citizens within a geographical contraception, within specific national goal as expressed in the nation's developmental plan. And of course, from this perspective, of course, Sayembo is of the perception that astronomical improvement in the living condition of people within a nation is the main target of any developmental goals of a nation. Hence, improvement in the standard of living of people within a given nation must include creation of decent job or creation of decent work, equity in income distribution, poverty elevation, improved quality of work life, better access to basic necessities of life, such as electricity, quality healthcare services, potable drinking waters, efficient fire services, good road network, safety, and of course, security of people. Well, with regards to India, I think you be the judge in terms of whether all these indicators are reflected within the India economy. But as far as I'm concerned, with regards to Africa, most of these indicators are lacking in terms of course, developmental indices. Right. So we progress. So it is only when these targets are met, all these targets, quality of life, decent job or decent work, better access to basic necessities of life. It is only when these targets are met that one can speak of national development. Right. Hello, delegates, are you all still with me? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Professor Wilford, you are audible. It is okay.
Okay. I just want to be sure that I'm still with every colleague. Okay. So it is only when these targets are met that one can speak of national development. Now, with regards to development also, Obasanjo and Akin cited in Ukbere 2010 perceived development as a process that deals with capacity of people in a given geographical contraception within a given epoch to manage and prompt positive change through forecasting, planning, understanding, as well as monitoring the transformation that ensue in order to discard undesirable development. Of course, we may talk about development, but there are developments that are undesirable, which we actually need to discard. And of course, a lot of those developments emerge within the global economy. And of course, if we really want to push our economy out of crisis, there are instances where we really need to discard most of the development that we have been witnessing since the dawn of globalization. But we'll come to that later as I progress in this address. All right. So from the perspective of Obasanjo and Akin, development is all about welfare, the welfare of human beings, you see. Since people are the ultimate beneficiaries of development outcomes in the form of efficient utilization of natural resources, increased productivity, decent work, high level of infrastructural progress, poverty eradication, efficient production, enabling environment, equality, full capacity utilization, and of course, technological innovations and advancements. All right. We progress. And of course, with regards to development, Nyerere, as far back as 1971, was of the view that people tend to see development only from the socio-economic perspective and argue that people should look beyond only economic indicators and put more emphasis on human development, which entails the complete actualization of human potentials as well as maximum utilization of the national resources in the best interest of all citizens. You see? So in other words, what we notice, if we try to link Nyerere's definition with what was happening within the era of globalization, we were hearing about economic growth in many places, but this growth was not translated in the ordinary people in the street. Can you see? Only the capitalists were the ones amassing wealth from this so-called growth. That is why globalization became a little bit economically benign, but socially malign, in the sense that many people were actually left behind in the hurricane of globalization. And of course, the perspective of Nyerere seems to resonate well with former Prime Minister of India, the late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, who argued that development policy should be to the benefit of all layers of society and not to the benefit of a favored few. All right. So, based on this, to round it up in terms of definition, Ugo and Okpere posited that every society is expected to improve the condition of its people, particularly their quality of life. It should be concerned with provision of basic needs such as food, water, education, good healthcare, shelter, and so on for all. Any concerted effort to achieve this is called development. So there must be concerted effort. There must be renewed effort to achieve most of these indicators or indices of development, the improvement of people within a particular geographical contraception, the improvement of their quality of work life, the improvement of their quality of health, the improvement, the eradication of hunger, and of course, the improvement of education, through education, training of the human capital, or of course, the human resources of a nation, shelter, and all the rest. So all effort to achieve this, any concerted effort to achieve this is called development. All right. And finally, from the perspective of Ugo and Okpere, every society is expected to improve the condition of its people. Can you see? Of course, that is also reflecting on the initial statement, which has now also been capitalized in this particular slide. All right, we progress. So with regards to the problem statement of this paper, and of course the research objective, I just used some few moments to contextualize the problem statement. Many developing nations are yet to understand the impact of decent work on sustainable development and growth of the economy within a rapidly changing environment. And of course, in terms of the research question, what is the impact of lack of decent job, or what is the impact of indecent job on the economic development and growth of a nation? And the second one, that is the objective is to establish the impact of lack of decent job or indecent job on the economic development and growth of a nation. With regards to the research methodology, considering the fact that, like I told you, the notice to actually address this conference was a very short one, there was no need of going empirical. I decided to actually prepare a conceptual paper based on emic perspective as well as the author's viewpoint. Data was obtained from authoritative secondary sources such as International Labour Organization, United Nations Development Program, World Bank, journal articles, magazines, etc. In some instances, experts in the field were consulted in the course of developing this paper. All right. Now we have addressed issues of development. Now we progress to sustainable development. With regards to sustainable development, Kunda considers sustainable development as a concept which envisages development as the capacity to meet the requirement of current generation without negatively affecting the requirement of future generation. That is according to Kunda. That is to say that any development that we are achieving today must also take into consideration the future of our coming generation. Therefore, while development should meet the requirements of the current, it must not destroy the capacity of the future generation to satisfy their own requirements. You see? And of course, nevertheless, it must be emphasized that the capacity to satisfy this requirement are determined when a nation invests in human capital, such as healthcare, education, development of knowledge workers, as well as physical assets, such as tools, machines, and of course, rapid technological innovation. But of course, technology also must be regulated to a certain extent for human welfare. That technology is good, but technology must serve human welfare and not otherwise. But we'll talk to that later on. All right. So increasing the level of quality of education within society is a huge boost to sustainable development, according to United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization in 2017. All right. And of course, good governance is crucial for sustainable development. Good governance. In most of the third world countries or in developing countries, what we are seeing is massive corruption of leaders, embezzlement, and stealing of public funds. That will not actually ensure sustainable development. That is why you see that development in Africa is not sustainable. Because people are coming to government, people are coming to governance, people are coming into leadership to steal and loot and exploit the public fund. That cannot guarantee sustainable development if human beings are not taken into consideration. All right. So the United Nations World Tourism Organization posits that sustainable development is the credo of job creation. It's the credo of job creation, quality of work life, wealth creation, and of course, economic growth. That's it. And on the basis of this, the United Nations has, of course, proposed 17 key sustainable development goals, which, of course, include eradication of poverty, which is goal number 1, no poverty. Goal number 2, no hunger, zero hunger. Goal number 3, good health and well-being. Goal number 4, quality of education. Goal number 5, gender equality. Goal number 6, clean water and sanitation. Goal number 7, affordable and clean energy. Goal number 8, decent work and economic growth. I will touch on that, goal number 8 very much, but let me progress. Goal number 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Goal number 10, reduce inequality in society, which is of course tied also to issues of decent work and economic growth. And of course, goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. Goal number 13, climate action. Goal number 4, life below waters. Goal number 14, life below waters. Goal number 15, life on land. Goal number 16, peace and justice, including strong institutions. Goal number 17, partnership to achieve the goals. All right. But now for the purpose of this keynote address, I will focus on SDG goal number 8, which is of course decent work and economic growth as key construct of this particular address. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about decent work. In terms of definition, the International Labour Organization, cited in European Commission 2021, defined decent work as a productive work, for women and men in conditions of freedom, equity, security, and human dignity. This is the definition of decent work. Decent work must be productive work. Can you see? For both men and women. Okay, let's say productive work for human beings. Can you see? And when we talk about productive work, we are talking about work that is contributing to the productivity of a nation. Can you see? And of course, productive work must be identified that it is, of course, productive in terms of adding value to society. Can you see? So productive work for men and women, not the kind of job that we are seeing, which are a kind of casino jobs, or some of the jobs that you are seeing which have just been casualized or flexibilized. When we talk about productive job, we are talking about decent work. You see? And of course, in condition of freedom, decent work should be done within the condition of freedom. In other words, there should not be any issues of banded laborers. Can you see? There should not be issues of slave labor. And of course, there should not be issues of child labor, as the case may be. It should be under condition of freedom. And of course, equity. You see, that everybody is treated equal within a particular job. That is to say, equal work for equal pay. Nobody is prejudiced. Nobody is, of course, discriminated. And of course, men in condition of freedom, equity, and of course, security. Job must be secured. Job must be secured. But if you look at the current global economy, you will see that most of the jobs are evaporating. Can you see? Because many of the jobs that have been created are not decent. We have seen all patterns of job emerging within the global economy. And to a certain extent, we think we are wise. The capitalists think they are wise. But if you create indecent job, you will also reap indecent feedbacks or indecent outcomes. In the sense that when you create indecent job, definitely you take away the purchasing power from the majority of the population of your nation. That is the working class or the workers. And of course, human dignity, in condition of human dignity, that a worker should be respected. Because although he is not contributing his money, but he is contributing his life. So decent work is a productive work for men and women, or for human beings in conditions of freedom, equity, security, and human dignity. That is according to the International Labour Organization. And of course, if we just take a simple definition from Wikipedia, it said decent work is employment that respects the fundamental right of the human person, as well as the right of workers in terms of conditions of work safety and remuneration. Can you see? Respect for physical and mental integrity of the workers in the exercise of his or her employment. Can you see? Respect the fundamental right of the human person, right to life, right to association, right to health care, all the rights that are inherent in the fundamental human right of human beings should also be reflected in terms of the work we create for our workers. You see? As well as the right of workers in terms of conditions of safety. There should be safety in the workplace. But some of the things we noticed within the global environment was that most of the capitalists or most of the owners of business were exploiting workers without even taking into consideration the safety, their health issues. If you remember some few years back, the fire, the inferno in one of the Bangladesh export processing zones that killed a lot of workers, women, and of course, people working in the textile factory. that are placed in a factory that is like a cage or a prison without proper ventilation and all the rest. So condition of work safety. And of course, decent work must be well remunerated. Good pay. But if you notice what was happening, but I will come to that within the global environment, you notice that there was tendency actually to compromise the pays of workers. You see, all in the name of cost cutting as a result of global competition. Definitely, when we do this, we impoverish ourselves. When we pay our workers peanuts, we impoverish ourselves. Many a time I have seen Professor Bawinder Singh protesting in India in terms of union movements, with regards to pay of lecturers, with regard to pay of academics, with regards to pay of farmers. I have seen him protest, Professor Bawinder Singh of Punjab University. Can you see? So these are also, most of these things I'm talking is applicable to our nations, particularly developing nations. And of course, respect for the physical and of course mental. Physical, there should have been hate on the physical and mental integrity of the worker in the exercise of his or her employment. And you see, we'll progress. Now we'll talk about, let's just get a clarity in terms of what decent job means. With regards to characteristics of decent work. A decent work, or a work is decent, or a work is considered decent when the pay package is reasonable and fair. Pay package is reasonable and fair. You cannot be paying your workers peanut and expect productivity increase. You cannot be paying your workers peanut and expect them to purchase the goods you have produced as a producer or as a capitalist. If you pay them peanut, they will have lesser disposable income, which will of course stifle investment and economic growth of a nation. You see? So those who disregard their workers, those who pay peanuts, will also suffer productivity suicide in terms of most of the activities or in terms of most of their productions. That is why you notice that many goods were lying redundant in warehouses across the globe, because it seems to me that there was a reduction in terms of the purchasing powers in the hand of a majority of people. That is the workers, the working class. All right. Then, of course, a work is considered decent when job security and safe working conditions are guaranteed. Work is considered decent when job security and safe working conditions are guaranteed. That is to say, permanent job. The job should be permanent. But of course, what are the kind of job we are seeing within the global environment, or since the dawn of globalization? We are seeing casual job, flexible job, atypical employment patterns that cannot guarantee job security. And of course, we are seeing people working in very unsafe environment that are polluted. I see. Environment without proper ventilation. So people were caged in prisons, all in the name of work. You see? So those are not decent jobs. So decent job or a work is considered decent when job security and safe working conditions are guaranteed. A work is considered decent when there is equal treatment and opportunity for all workers. For all workers, everybody working. There should be else there. All right. A work is considered decent when there is social protection for the working class and their dependents. Social protection in terms of subsidizing most of the expenditures or most of the things that workers spend their money on. School fees of children. And of course, transportation to work. And of course, subsidization of education. In fact, I think India has done a lot in terms of in that area with regards to educational area. I don't know now, but I know that the school fees in India used to be very reasonable when I was a student there. So there is social protection for the working class and their dependents. The work is considered decent when there is hope for each worker's development and encouragement towards social integration. Can you see? When there is hope for workers' development, when workers can be trained to move within the organizational ladder. Of course, to move from one social class to the next. Of course, for instance, the Haryana moving to the next class in India. You see? Or the scheduled class moving to the next class as a result of empowerment. As a result of being a part of the working class. You see? And of course, I have seen those phenomena in India, effort, of course, to create some quotas for the scheduled class and, of course, for the downtrodden within society. But, of course, more effort needs to be done in that direction. And of course, the work is considered decent when there is freedom of employees to express their views on issues affecting them, in addition to the freedom of association, in addition to be part of a union. Can you see? There is freedom of employee to express their view, expressing their view in the form of industrial democracy or workers' participation in management. You see? But of course, to a certain extent, most of these ideas seems to have been demoted within the global economy or within the global environment or since the dawn of globalization. All right. So however, decent work could be affected. Of course, decent work, most of these things we have cataloged as decent work could be affected and have been affected by some intentional and unintentional changes that have actually affected humanity in recent times. Now we move to the ever-changing world. The world is changing. And of course, as the world is changing, we cannot say, oh, we cannot actually alter the change. Definitely, we must actually see how we can actually intervene, predict the change, and of course, be able to alter the change or be able to adapt to those changes. That is why Winner Swap, as far back as 2007, stated that the whole world is changing into change, as it once was in an earlier life. Now, in recent times, three phenomena have changed the way we do things. Can you see? These three phenomena include globalization, the fourth industrial revolution, which is, of course, intensification of globalization in the form of technological explosion and the introduction and incursion of automation, which include artificial intelligence, big data, and of course, so many other new trends that have actually unfolded in recent time. And of course, globalization came like a hurricane. And sometimes, of course, people said we cannot do anything about it because globalization is a force that has been in existence long before the contemporary globalization. And of course, in one of my papers where I spoke about the supreme mandate of globalization, I did actually mention the fact that there have been an innate inclination of humanity to globalize. But however, when we talk about contemporary globalization, this was actually man-made intentionally. The contemporary globalization started after a meeting at Silicon Valley, and just a group of top capitalists and globalizers and some of the top members of the Washington Consensus decided that in fact there's a need to coin a kind of economic philosophy or economic phenomena called globalization. And of course, the tendency to actually adopt this economic system was also promoted by the fall of socialism and communism. And of course, the triumph of capitalism, which is why globalization has also been referred to as capitalist globalization. And of course, within globalization, as the doctrine of globalization seemed to have started failing, and most of the promises seems to be failing also, then there was an introduction of a new kind of concept, which is in the form of fourth industrial revolution. But as far as I'm concerned, the fourth industrial revolution is an extension of globalization, because globalization wouldn't have become possible without technological exploitation or technological explosion in the form of internet. You see? So the fourth industrial revolution is all about additional technological explosion, automation, the use of artificial intelligence, and of course, big data, all which are products of globalization and the discovery of the internet. So these are two powerful phenomena that have affected us. And of course, while we were trying to come to terms with the doctrine of the fourth industrial revolution, another powerful environmental or biological change decided to confront humanity. That is the COVID-19, which of course surfaced towards the end of 2019 or from October onwards. I started hearing about a flu virus that have actually originated in China. And I want to let you know that COVID-19 has disrupted a lot of things. In fact, it also affected me in the sense that I was supposed to be in India at Punjab University to deliver a keynote address. I was also invited by Professor Bawinder Singh. And in fact, the society organizing that conference were very generous enough to book a ticket for me and book a hotel for me to stay in Patiala. But coincidentally, all of a sudden, I was looking forward to it. Because the conference will be coming in 2020, a kind of economic conference. So, as we just were hearing about the flu, we thought it will not be very serious. It would be like also the bird flu virus that also started in China or somewhere around the Asian continent sometime back. You know, we're thinking it will be something like those kind of flu, you know. But before we knew it, it was a severe pandemic. Now, of course, we will talk about why this pandemic became an issue and why this pandemic was able to fly so fast or to spread so fast about the globe. Of course, the spread of COVID-19, as I can say, if I want to give my own perspective about it, was also spread by globalization. Globalization means openness. Can you see? Openness. Openness of the border, high travels from country to country, no restriction, no economic protectionism, and all the rest. And within a twinkle of an eye, the COVID-19 spread across the whole globe, across the globe. And coming back to my conference that I was supposed to attend at Punjab University in Patiala, ticket has been booked, hotels have been booked, and of course, all transportation means from New Delhi, in the Gandhi International Airport, to Patiala has been made. But within a twinkle of an eye, in 2020, from January, we started hearing about the severity of the COVID-19. And I can recall myself calling Professor Bawinder Singh, that I'm hearing about this flu and my flight is going to take through Dubai. Please, I'm a little bit worried about this flu. Why? Because I'm a student of globalization and I know how disease can fly so fast. I told him, please, is it possible for me to cancel this visit to India? And to such an extent, I think I can see that disappointment from Professor Bawinder Singh. He really pleaded to me, please, Wilfred, you know, we have booked this and I don't know how to communicate to the sponsors of this conference. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I will try. But as they break, my conviction was still telling me, no, don't travel. And I contacted Professor Bawinder Singh again, please, I'm just hearing about this disease that is now moving from country to country. By then, it has not even arrived. The disease have not even arrived in India or even South Africa. And I know Professor Bawinder Singh also was still trying to convince me until all of a sudden the rumor started now spreading that at least we'll have a case in South Africa. Oh, another case in Nigeria. Oh, another case, third case in India. I became now a growing concern. And before you know it, my institution imposed a moratorium or a sanction on traveling for all academic staff at the University of Johannesburg. That was the only excuse I have to convince Professor Bawinder Singh that I cannot travel because I cannot break the rules of my university. And finally, I think I was able, and Professor Bawinder Singh asked me now to send a letter from the institute, from my institution, which I forwarded to him. And of course, that was what saved me from Professor Bawinder Singh, not actually offending him. And of course, with regards to the COVID-19, where the whole thing started spreading, but it opened a new opportunity. COVID-19 brought a new opportunity. And before you know it, universities started advising academics to innovate. Think of how you can actually transfer knowledge to your student or impart knowledge to your student. And while we were doing all this, Professor Bawinder Singh and the team of the conference organizing team were also thinking, how can we organize this conference? Now, immediately, I declined the conference. Before you know it, other delegate from China declined, delegate from Australia declined, delegate from America declined. You know, so it became, in fact, I think I started the declination. So that was when it became so obvious to Professor Bawinder Singh that I think we can either postpone the conference or think of other ways to organize it. And I must tell you that we were able to organize the conference, and it was hosted in one of the electronic medias that I'm using today also to present this paper. So that conference took place, and I presented my paper as a keynote speaker in that conference also. So that is another opportunity. The COVID-19 has brought innumerable opportunities and, of course, challenges. Opportunity in the sense that there are other ways of doing things. Definitely, I can lecture now from the comfort of my room, or I can lecture from the comfort of any remote environment. And of course, I can transact with people on Zoom. I can have conversation. I can have workshop. I can have, of course, a consultation. So those are windows of opportunity. People can do business now on Zoom, on Microsoft Teams, and of course, on the current platform that we're using, the Google Meet. Since the advent of globalization, a lot of innovations have emerged. But of course, we must also take into consideration of the shortcomings, the lack of human touch. For instance, if you go to conferences, you meet your old friends, your old colleagues, at least you touch yourself, you shake yourself, you joke. I remember my last conference to Patiala when Professor Ranjit Singh Gumar took us out and said, I'm going to give you Punjabi hospitality. Can you see? So those are some of the, the advantages of human touch. Unlike talking now to people, I'm not seeing any person when I deliver my lecture. So those are also some of the shortcomings. And the fact, of course, that you cannot supervise your subordinate properly because people are working in remote environments. So you don't know who is contributing earnestly or who is actually playing somewhere. So it has its own ups and downs. Well, these are the three phenomena that have actually changed the way we do things in recent time. I progressed. Now, let me just dive deep into globalization because I have mentioned to you that globalization is the force that actually encompasses these two phenomena. That is the fourth industrial revolution and, of course, the COVID-19. Globalization is, of course, the fourth industrial revolution is an extension of globalization through technological determinism, and of course also the COVID-19 spreaded very fast as a result of globalization, the open borders, the open economy, the eagerness to do business across the globe. Can you see? So globalization has impact on these two other phenomena. That is, of course, technological innovation in the form of fourth industrial revolution, and of course, the COVID-19 is in the form of spreading it across the globe so fast, so easily, and of course, within the twinkle of an eye, the whole world is in crisis. And that is also with regards to economic crisis. If you notice how economic crisis spread nowadays, you see that these are also intensified by globalization. When I was a student in India, there was that level of economic protectionism where you cannot even use foreign goods in India to a certain extent. But that is not the case today. You see? That is why if you take notice of the 2008 economic crisis, it was fast and swift. An economic crisis that started as a supreme mortgage crisis in the US spread across the globe within a twinkle of an eye. You see? So we talk about globalization with regards to the definition of globalization. Globalization has been defined as the process of interaction and integration among the people, companies, and governments of different nations a process driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. Sorry. This process has effects on the environment, on culture, on political system, on economic development and prosperity, and on physical well-being in societies around the world. That is according to Scler. And of course, Giddens was of the view that globalization is the intensification of worldwide social relations, which link distant localities in such a way that local happenings are shaped by events occurring many miles away. So if we try to relate Giddens' definition to what I have explained now, you can see that the disease that started within a local environment in China affected the whole world within a twinkle of an eye. And of course, like I also referred to the global economic crisis of 2008, within a twinkle of an eye, the whole world was a mash in crisis. All right. So what we do in local can affect the globe. And what is happening within the globe can affect the local. Now let us consider some of the specific features of capitalist globalization, or features of capitalist global economic system, or global capitalist economic system, whichever way you want to confess. Specific features. Some of the features that are replica of capitalism is global competition, or we can say competition. And if you know one of the characteristics of capitalism, that is competition, high competition, which of course includes cutthroat competition. But of course, one of the features of globalization or capitalist globalization, global economic system is global competition. The fact that we are no more competing within a national frontier or borders, but we are competing within a global village. So definitely, as an organization in India, you are not competing with other organizations in India. For instance, Suzuki will not just be competing with Tata in terms of car manufacturing, but we'll be competing with Chrysler-Benz, and of course, we'll be competing with, of course, BMW and other car producers across the globe. Can you see? Because, of course, there is economic openness, and other transnational complaints can penetrate your local economy as a result of globalization. Another specific feature of capitalist global economy is profit motive. Can you see? Profit motive. Most of the activities of organizations within the global environment was to make profit. And of course, this profit can be changed without taking into consideration of human welfare. You see? Even if it warrants destruction of jobs to reduce costs, you must make profit. Even if it is selling inferior goods to consumers, make profit. Even if it is polluting the environment, make profit. Even if it warrants people dying as a result of production, make profit. Can you see? So profit motive became, of course, one of the reigning orthodoxies or logics within the capitalist global system. And of course, also aligned or in relation to profit motive, it seems to me that there was a high shareholders' expectation, in the sense that shareholders expect huge and big dividends with regards to the capital they contribute to organizations. That is why, of course, managers are forced to cut cost by retrenching a lot of workers, even when the organization is making profit. Can you see? because shareholders' interest is very paramount now within global economies. Can you see? That is why you see that in most of the organizations where jobs are destroyed, it seems to me that managers were promoted and their pay packages were increased. And most of them were even praised for destroying jobs. We will come to that as we progress. And of course, another feature of capitalist global economic system is rapid technological advancement and innovation. Yes, capitalism is all about technological advancement. And that was, all, of course, a reflection of one of the quotes of Queen Victoria, as far back as, of course, 1740 something. When she said that capitalism is all about innovation. And of course, what machinery is doing for humankind. And one of the most powerful instruments of globalization is technology. And in fact, there is a perception that globalization wouldn't have become possible without technological determinism. But of course, from both sides, globalization has spoiled technology, as well as technology has spoiled globalization. Can you see? So one of the specific features of a global capitalist system or capitalist global economic system is, of course, rapid technology, unending innovation. And of course, the next one of the features of capitalist global economic system is economic and organizational restructuring. Many national economies were restructuring towards capitalism. Most of the communist economies, most of the socialist economy like India, were embracing capitalism so fast. China, even which was a communist republic, was even more capitalist than the West today. You see. So economic restructuring and of course, organizational restructuring in terms of merger and acquisition, what is also referred to as amalgamation in India, and of course, absorption also in India. Okay, you see. Yeah. So economic and organizational restructuring was one of the features of capitalist globalization. Mind you, most of this restructuring were also having adverse effect on the working class. I will talk about that as we progress. Now, the next aspect in terms of specific features of capitalist global economic system is the advent of different kinds of work patterns. We started noticing different forms of work patterns. Some they call flexible work. Some they call, of course, contract work. Some they call temporary work. Some they call all kinds of atypical employment patterns emerge since the dawn of globalization. And if you look at most of this employment pattern, there is no security. There's no job security around there. There's no permanency. There are jobs that come and go. They come today and they evaporate tomorrow. So those were some of the kind of job. Job for life seems to have been destroyed forever. You see, so most of the jobs we were seeing were just contract jobs, short-term jobs, you see, flexible jobs, and all the rest. And of course, specific features of capitalist global economic system, we started also noticing autocratic ownership of business and autocratic ownership and management of business, which is also reinforced by one of the doctrines, of course, one of the characteristics of capitalism, namely self-interest. Can you see? Owners, we're becoming more autocratic. Yes, we are the owners. We are in charge here, and management. And of course, most of them take decisions on retrenchment, on downsizing, on re-engineering, without proper consultation of the working class. who have actually survived the organization over the years. So we're seeing a lot of retrenchment, job destruction, downsizing, so many new terms, re-engineering to cover up what they are actually doing, which is, of course, killing jobs. Can you see? Autocratic ownership and, of course, management surface, all in the name of self-interest. And why are they killing jobs? To make more profit. Like I told you, capitalist economy is based on profit motive. All right. And another instance is, of course, what we also notice within the capitalist global system is rising cost and inflation. You see, and I'm happy that, of course, Professor Sinha alluded to that also in his presentation in terms of inflation and, of course, rising cost of living and rising cost of amenities or rising cost of food. Can you see? And of course, finally, another specific feature of capitalist global system or capitalist globalization is social upheaval. Can you see? We have been seeing so many social upheaval across the globe. As we are speaking now, even Sri Lanka is fighting. Can you see? That is social upheaval, protest. And as we are talking about, as we are talking also protest in Pakistan in recent time, as they want the president, the former president has, of course, been impeached. The former rugby player, the former player who's the former president of Pakistan. You see? So social upheaval, even in South Africa, you must have heard about the Marikana protest of workers, which led to the massacre of 34 mining workers. Why are they protesting? Poor condition of work, poor working condition. Within an environment that is producing the wealth of South Africa, workers were living in an inhuman working condition. Can you see? Which triggered, of course, the protests. When workers demanded for decent pay, which is one of the characteristics of decent work, which, of course, resulted in the massacre of 34 mining workers. Right. Of course, the global economy and decent work. Let's just look at labor utilization since the dawn of globalization or within the global economy. Then, of course, you be the judge whether the global economy has actually produced decent work. What we noticed with regards to labor utilization within the global economy was a growing downward spiral, or is still a growing downward spiral on wages and working conditions. You see, there was tendency for organizations to compromise or demote or reduce the wages that they are paid to workers. For instance, American workers have been told that if you don't cooperate, you move to China. Can you see? Well, we can hire more than 10 workers for the amount we pay you in America. So definitely this was also affecting workers in the advanced countries. Can you see? Although workers in South Asia may benefit, but some workers are paying the price somewhere. Can you see? And of course, working condition that is not palatable, which of course may not be tolerated in advanced countries, but can be accepted in developing countries or third world countries. You see, like Bangladesh, Indonesia, and other countries that are accommodating export processing zones. And of course, another thing we noticed with regards to decent work, and of course, labor utilization, was that we were noticing continuous, unending job destruction and losses. Like I mentioned earlier, it seems to me that managers were deliberately destroying jobs. And of course, organizations were looking for managers that are mean, hard, and wicked when it comes to job destruction, that will not look at faces, that will not care what is happening to workers and their family. So we were also noticing issues of rapid job destruction. And I don't want to waste more time. Let me just move faster. The rest to the bottom in labor standard. Labor standard was not respected by many transnational corporations within the era of globalization. Abusive labor relationship, employee killing. There were so many instances of abusive labor relationship. Sexual harassment was also surfacing within the global economy or within most of the export processing zones. And of course, issues related to employee killings. Employees that challenge the status quo were executed in some extreme environment. There have been some documented instances in China, which I came across in the book by Naomi Klein, which says no country, no logo, and no space. You see, abusive labor relationship, and of course, employee killing. And of course, another way labor was utilized within the global economy was casualization of employment relationship. Casualization, and of course, flexibilization of employment relationship. That is to say that employment relationship is no more permanent. Can you see? Employment relationship is no more permanent but casual. Can you see? Employment relationship is no more permanent but casual employment relations, which of course has to do with a typical job. Can you see? Which has to do with a typical job. Okay, colleagues, I have been informed actually that I should also be fast because of time constraint. So let me just go through them. The global economy and decent work, less training to workers. There was emphasis, people were not interested to train workers. And if you see one of the characteristics of decent work is that, of course, workers' development and training. Huge expenditure was spent on advertisements and sales promotion. The peanuts were given to workers. Workers' exploitation and child labor in the export processing zone was visible. Corporate mergers and acquisition, footloose speculative capital, restricted labor mobility, impact of technology on workers, of course, visual cooperation, erosion of labor union power, and of course, demotion of industrial democracy. And of course, we know reason for the erosion of union powers. In most countries, the union membership have been depleted also as a result of the doctrine of globalization, which has affected also the voice of workers in terms of industrial democracy in the workplace. And this economic pattern or this manner in which workers have been utilized have created three global monsters, which the top economic philosophers have not actually found solution to actually tackle or unravel. People like, of course, Amita Singh, people like Stanley's have not actually come up with a new economic resolution to address issues of unemployment, inequality, and of course, poverty in society, not just in the developing countries, but of course, across the globe. Now, if you look at statistics of unemployment, inequality, and poverty in Africa, they are all gory and of course, scary statistics. And I don't want to dwell on them. Probably when I send this slide, you can actually have look on some of them. Instances of youth unemployment in Nigeria, for instance, from 2016 to 2018, unemployment rate rose from 19% to almost 38% of the population in the country among the youths. And of course, issues of unemployment statistics also continue, but I don't want to belabor issue. And of course, according to Jind, cited from Africa, from News Africa, he said, in Africa, inequality is worsened when growth will create wealth. It's not accompanied by decent job, the sort of growth that distribute wealth, foster consumption and drive investment. And of course, the right to decent employment is one of the basic rights of all human beings as contained in the United Nations Charter for Human Rights since 1945. However, it's quite sad that this very fundamental right have evaded many Africans. Also buttressing Mandela, Nelson Mandela said, combating inequality is an ethical and moral imperative. Massive poverty and obscene inequality is a terrible scourge of our times, time in which the world boasts breathtaking advances in science, technology, industry, and wealth accumulation that they have to rank alongside slavery and apartheid as social evil. And of course, these are statistics of inequality, which I don't need to share because of which I don't need to talk to because of constraint of time. Because in fact, I've been communicated to by my friend that I should try to also concise the discourse because of time. All right. So these are all statistics, facts, and statistics about poverty in Africa. I've actually used Africa, and I believe some of the reflections in Africa is also akin to what is happening in India. But of course, I know that India is somehow have, of course, move ahead in terms of economic development compared to many African countries also. So benefit of decent work towards economic growth, I'm almost there. Some of the benefit of decent work towards economic growth include high living standard of workers and of course citizens of a nation, rapid productivity, can you see? Decent work, improve the productivity of workers because a happy worker will contribute productively, can you see? A happy worker, a healthy worker will contribute productivity to the nation's economic growth. Decent work will improve social cohesion, can you see? Social cohesion. There will not be the have and the have-nots. There will not be the upper class and the lower class. Can you see? Everybody will have a decent employment. And of course, that will reduce criminality in society. And people can actually function as a happy family within a country. And of course, decent work will also foster inclusive society. And you see, inclusive, where everyone is included, where everyone is appreciated. Can you see? And of course, everyone can contribute to the nation building. And of course, decent work will also elevate poverty, poverty elevation. Can you see? Poverty elevation and eradication. And of course, higher investment. Decent work will lead to high investment because if workers have purchasing power, they can purchase the goods in warehouses. They can purchase the production of the capitalists. And of course, that will also lead to higher investment because there is a kind of disposable income in the hand of majority of the people within a society or within a country. And of course, that will trigger additional investment, which will create additional jobs. So it becomes a kind of circle, can you see? It becomes a kind of circle of prosperity and progress
Yeah,
information.
Professor Wilfred.
I'm almost rounding up. This is almost the second to the last slide. I'm almost there.
Thank you.
Increased national income, national prestige. Of course, decent job will increase national prestige, economic development and growth. And of course, in terms of way forward, these are some of them. Let me just go to the conclusion because I have started hearing voices. A way forward in terms of creation of decent wealth, economic opulence and growth. There should be a commitment towards the enshrinement of industrial humanism in the workplace. Extension of general democratic principle to the workplace. Commitment to adhere to the core labor, ILO labor standards. A concerted effort to improve the quality of work life of workers. There is a need, emphasis should be placed on human relation approach of management. There should be government policy and commitment to create decent jobs. And of course, there is a need to regulate technology that is destroying jobs, because technology should be created for human welfare and not otherwise. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, decent work has more to do with economic development and growth, because a happy and healthy worker is a productive worker. Hence, every nation or regions or states within nation, including the state of Haryana, should make concerted effort towards the creation and promotion of decent work. As such, could go a long way towards accelerating the pace of economic development and growth of a nation. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking more time, but thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your very thought-provoking, interesting, and innovative lecture on sustaining economic development and growth in an ever-changing world for decent work. You well defined the decent work as productive work for women and men in condition of freedom, equity, security, and human dignity. Thank you, sir, for taking time from your busy schedule to be the keynote speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, I request to Professor Navleen Mohan, Registrar, Chaudhry Ranveer Singh University, Jind, and patron of this conference to share her views. Over to Professor Navleen Mohan ji.
Yeah, Professor Wilfred, please stop your presentation. Yeah, thank you.
How many people have joined? Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Audible.
All right. So how much time do you give me? Dr. Fogart, if you could let me know.
Ma'am, 15-20 minutes.
All right. Thank you. So first of all, I wish to thank the Department of Economics who collaborate here with Haryana Economic Association, inviting me to share this platform with you. It's a very pleasant coincidence that a teacher of English literature has been invited to share views on a platform adorned by well-known academicians, researchers, and thinkers in the discipline of economics. My duty is as challenging as it is interesting. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I come from a discipline which, like all others, had its share of hiccups, trials, and travails with the unwelcome advent of the pandemic. Apart from the inconvenience suffered by loss of personal health at home and desolated workplace, it was also an issue of a strange uncertainty, unease, and unpredictability of what was to unfold. We are lucky that we reside in Haryana, a relatively smaller state, where the impact of COVID-19 was well managed and contained to a large extent. Yes, we all were witness to shortage of resources, be it medical or otherwise, which threatened existence. Problems of multitudes migrating to the hinterland, factories and enterprises shutting down, employment opportunities vanishing from sectors such as hospitality, aviation, manufacturing, and many others. For the presentation today, I shall focus upon how the pandemic has impacted learning and teaching, nearly redefining the contours of our educational landscape. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic has been so extensive and alarming that all facets of social life have been gripped and truncated, be it economy, education, agriculture, employment sector, and the entire natural environment. But as an academician and a teacher, I wish to highlight how the education system has been one of the badly hit domains. Investment in education is a process which is long drawn and dividends come much later. So it is natural to mull how the stakeholders are responding to this calamity, the level of preparedness developed by them, and the efficacy of the coping mechanism devised by them. It was around the second week of March 2020 that educational institutions were temporarily shut down in order to control the spread of the coronavirus. However, March onwards is a busy period for aspirants of schools, colleges, and universities. Whereas admissions to co-ed schools from nursery onwards are scheduled, there are other exams lined up at the senior level, including the board examinations, entrance tests of various universities, and competitive examinations, among others. With gradual passing of time, it was realized that the closure might not be a quick fix solution. In fact, it was an ominous forecast that things were not going to change in near future, and educational institutions might not experience the vibrant physical presence of the students for quite some time. It has implied not only loss of teaching hours, but also consequent economic and societal consequences for educational institutions, parents, teachers, and many other stakeholders. As the days passed by with no immediate solution to stop the outbreak of COVID-19, it was realized that school and university closures was not a short-term measure and that it will have a lasting impact on the continuity of learning for more than 285 million young learners in India. Even more, the practices of schooling and learning, including teaching and assessment methodologies, would also have to be modified in view of the sudden and forced change. Online learning appeared as a silver lining on the otherwise dark horizon. India's ed-tech sector has unwittingly received a major boost. Online teaching through various platforms is already an established practice in India. However, the stumbling blocks cannot be wished away. In the present testing times, only a handful of resourceful private institutions or state or centrally funded ones were able to follow online teaching practices, online teaching methods, whereas their counterparts, the smaller private schools, as well as the government schools, had little option. Their meager resources did not allow provisions or access to e-learning solutions. The learners too were adversely affected with denial of learning opportunities, as well as the nutritious midday meal provided earlier to many of them, engendering economic and social stress. Students also faced issues such as uncertainty regarding exams, future, no possibility of attending tuitions, no quiet space at home, and no sharing amongst peers. Parents had a different predicament. For those who could afford, working from home was an option, though they had to work even more from home than they used to in the office. This created problems of another kind, as they had neither free time to devote to children, nor the required gadgets to share for facilitating online learning. For parents from different strata, working as auto rickshaw drivers, domestic helps, tailors, and barbers, amongst many other occupations, woes and worries got compounded. Lockdown forced them to look for alternative job avenues, and as many lost steady income, hence their priority was making both ends meet somehow, instead of looking for learning facilities for children. The higher education sector had to gear up for global mobility and innovative for maintaining inflow of international students and faculty. Further, in order to bring back the academic calendar on track, immediate measures were required to continue with internship programs, fellowships, and research projects so that the impact of the pandemic could be mitigated. Fourthly, there is an imperative need to promote blended learning options where some amount of classroom learning could harmonize with and complement some portion through online learning, creating an advanced techno-inspired accessible pedagogical option. With an objective to disseminate academic content, the government has accentuated e-learning endeavor. Many players in the field of EdTech are offering incentives such as free online classes or attractive discounts on e-learning modules. These initiatives and strategies have attracted learners who are happy to learn in their comfort zone as much as when they feel fit. The overwhelming response by students has yielded huge benefits, with some startups witnessing as high as 25% uptick in e-learning. Remote learning was earlier considered as a cumbersome, monotonous, and non-interactive process with very few takers from the conventional courses. Now, in the threatening background of a pandemic, it has become an obvious and welcome option. Digitalized learning is more flexible, personalized, and easily available. Keeping in view the huge number of learners across the length and breadth of the country, a massive open online course, that is the MOOC, which is an online course aimed at unlimited participation and open access via the web, has been undertaken. India is considered to be the biggest market for MOOCs in the world after the USA. As number of learners keeps swelling in a country of the dimension of India, massive open online course is said to be a kind of educational revolution, taking in its folds one and all, irrespective of area, age, language, or distance. Online distant learning programs have ushered in a new age of learning, which is just a click away and provides all the required knowledge base with the help of internet connectivity. In view of the current scenario, central and state governments, along with some private players, have undertaken various initiatives. MHRD, Department of Technical Education, NCERT have launched various online efforts, SWAYAM online courses for teachers, UG PG MOOCs for non-technology courses, e-PG Pathshala or e-content containing modules on social sciences, arts, fine arts, maths and natural sciences, CEC UGC YouTube channel with Dwan, a database of experts to provide database to peers and prospective collaborators, NEAT, NEET, that is National Educational Alliance for Technology, an initiative by AICTE based on public-private partnership to enhance the employability skill of students in collaboration with education technology companies, and National Digital Library, a repository of learning resources with single window facility. Some other useful initiatives include Spoken Tutorial, free and open source software for education, eYantra, Google Classroom, and so on. Other platforms to deliver e-education include National Knowledge Network, National Project on Technology Enhanced Learning, National Mission on Education through Information and Communication Technology, National Academic Depository. NKN provides a high-speed network facility to educational institutions. Government claims that our e-learning platforms such as Swayam MHRD, Swayam Prabha, NDL, etc. have received a footfall of 1.4 crores. However, there are certain limitations of online education. The arguments on the other side are also umpteen as to how far and how much can technology be a viable alternative in this period has its own limitations too, mainly because the e-learning infrastructure in India is not robust and efficient enough to cater to a divergent multitudes of users. The classroom teaching with physically present tutor having direct contact with the learners and the learner as student community having peer pressure and peer support is anytime a much preferred scenario than the mechanical, anonymous, and officious digital learning mode. There may be learners from remote hinterland and far-flung rural areas lacking in infrastructure or may not be financially well equipped to avail the resources required for digital learning. Even on the part of the government, the initial expenditure on establishing and running a massive infrastructure with powerful bandwidth, extensive data bank, and manpower resources for the upkeep of the entire system is a challenge of its own kind. Further, even if the digital infrastructure is available, the next challenge is to train the teachers for using digital resources efficiently and effectively to create a readiness in learners and to facilitate a proper, uninterrupted, and seamless learning experience. Issues of internet connectivity impinge hard on a successful digital experience, and connectivity will always be a hurdle for many areas. An inherent challenge in online learning is related to the isolated learner who has to be responsible for taking these classes seriously and conscientiously, as the aura of real classroom with peers and teachers around is missing. Distractions of jumping to other social media platforms, dozing off, or the inability to follow at the pace of other learners are some other nagging issues. Another dimension and one of the rigors of digital shift is the pressure it exerts on the user to work efficiently at a fast pace and to attend to a number of users or students. Even when the pandemic poses vital health threat to all, teachers have to be geared for daily lessons, worksheets, notes, classes on digital platforms, and much else. There is the pressure from the administration for maintaining record of classes, attendance, etc. There is a pressure of parents who do not want to compromise with quality. And there is equal pressure from the large number of disinterested and rowdy students as to how they can be reined in. Teachers are a harried lot, working overtime on WhatsApp groups, sending lessons and homework, and then filling absentees. With educational institutions remaining closed for a longer duration, digital mode has become a reality as well as a challenge. Now, despite the long itinerary of hurdles and hiccups, the efforts being made by the Indian government are most laudable. The government has always been a proactive agency to promote learning and education avenues for the largest numbers coming from the remotest part of the country. With the change in scenario necessitated by the pandemic, goals and visions have been modified as the movement is from the classroom to virtual room. Digital India vision of the government offers abundant platforms to access a large range of e-material to pursue learning, seek employment, and access information. Though these are taxing times, it can still be utilized to make technology more simple, accessible, and economical. New techno tools can be deployed to make educational delivery system more effective. Virtual learning and various online pedagogical tools can now be converted into an important link between course content, technology, and course users. Talking of the initiatives at the international fora, there are organizations such as UNESCO, which are lending support to countries to lessen the impact of the pandemic by facilitating continuity of education and by taking care of the vulnerable strata of society. Remote learning efforts have been specially supported and financed by various world bodies. A related health crisis of mental health has been sensitively and scientifically highlighted by UNESCO, offering support and management of mental health issues. The UNESCO report estimates that COVID-19 will adversely impact over 290 million students across 22 countries. The UNESCO estimates that about 32 crore students are affected in India, including those in schools and colleges. India has over 37 million students enrolled in higher education, although with Coursera working together on this front with many universities, British Council too has come up with interesting learning methods to keep the children and adults engaged. During the virtual classes, it is ensured that the students can have an interactive experience with their teachers and classmates. To conclude, governments across the globe have resorted to closure of schools, colleges, and universities, leading to about 73% of enrolled students being affected worldwide. The compulsion of maintaining not just social but also physical distance has been the reason behind students staying back home and classrooms coming to their doorstep. With gradual recovery from the pandemic, a recovery which is slow, painful, and unsure, cautious steps have been initiated to get life back on the track. World over, schools and colleges are being reopened now with a lot many conditions and rules. The pandemic has taught lessons for the present and the future too. It has drawn home the stringent message that states have to be prepared for such eventualities and global health threats while formulating plans, projects, and designing academic calendars. It must be ensured that diverse modes of learning are available and online learning is not just a contingency backup. Instead, it blends well with offline teaching. There is also the requisite of infrastructural, technological updating of resources so that e-learning can go on smoothly. The mission of right to education should not be a visionary dream. It should be realized into lived reality. Online learning may be an attractive option, but it can supplement learning process. It cannot be a substitute. We all are happy that the old days are back again, with some classrooms vibrating with energy, enthusiasm, and zest, and interactive sessions in flesh and blood beckoning a new resurgent Bharat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your views on teaching during pandemic of COVID-19. Thank you very much. Now I invite Dr. Rakesh Yama for a formal vote of thanks. Over to Dr. Rakesh Yama.
Good afternoon, all of you. First of all, I would like to thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Somnath Sachdeva, for his all support and guidance in this international conference. On the behalf of organized secretary of this conference, I extend my hearty vote of thanks to our worthy registrar and chief guest of this conference, Professor Laulin Mohan, who spared time from her busy schedule and graced this international academic affair and enlightened us by her vast knowledge what is the impact of COVID on different aspects of the society, particularly on education. I would like thanks to our keynote speaker, Professor Wilfred Aisoma Ukepere, for his precious time from his busy schedule. Your deep and intellectual way of imparting the knowledge has added to the glory of this conference. I would like to thank Professor S.K. Sinha, Dean of Academic Affairs, to give his support and guidance for the success of this international conference. I would like thanks to Professor Manoj Sinha, our academic guru, who give unconditional support, guidance 24 hours from the day when we thought about this conference. I would like to thank our chairperson, Dr. Sunil Fokat, who give us full-time supports and guidance to make this event success. Last and not least, I would like to thanks to Dr. Vijay, who give his full strength, full energy to these events. Last, some individual hands are also working in the event. I would like thanks to Dr. Amit Khatkar, who give this platform of online international conference. Thanks a lot to everyone. And we have simultaneous session of other events also. So we have a lunch break. After lunch break, we will start the session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh. Now it's time for lunch, and we request all of you to kindly join the next session of panel discussion at 1:45 o'clock. Panel discussion will be of 1 hour with two panelists, Professor B.S. Tiwana from Punjab and Dr. Paramjit Singh from Chandigarh. The session will be chaired by Professor Abhay Singh Godara from CDLU Shiksha. So you are requested to join at 1:45 o'clock sharply. Thank you very much.
तो ये वो आता है ना